All right, welcome to our celebrity authors interview with Andrew Johnson from over in the South Island in New Zealand. The internet's a little jumpy, so every now and then he's going to make a funny face and it's going to be frozen in that face, and we will enjoy that at this end. So good to have you here, mate.
Thanks, Greg. Awesome to be here.
Mate, the reason I want to talk with you today is that you've done your book, and if you can hold your book up so all our authors on the program can see your book, which is Small Changes, Big Results. Tell us a little bit about why you got there, like what kind of prompted you to do that? And then, of course, you sort of went through the process of structuring your ideas and writing it and publishing it. And then we're going to talk a little bit about your journey to now, okay, you've got the book. What have you done with it? What results has it produced? And specifically, I want to talk a little bit about your experience going over to a foreign country and publishing and selling your book in Vietnam, I think it is.
Yep. Okay. So I didn't set out to be an author. What happened was a lot of my clients said, "Man, you should write a book," and a lot of my friends said, "Man, you should write a book." And finally, I sat down one Sunday afternoon. It was raining outside, and I was in the beanbag with my iPad with a keypad on it, and I started typing. And I typed out a chapter. And then I typed out another chapter and another chapter, and there wasn't a whole lot of structure to it. I actually punched it, most of which I actually ended up publishing. But it was, then I couldn't sort of get it into the structure. And then of course, I started on your program, and you helped me with that whole structure. And it wasn't so much about what we did on the call, which was fantastic, by the way, but it was just the process of how to get the chapters knocked out and into order, and the themes and the Venn diagram. So that made a huge difference to me. And then, I haven't pushed it in New Zealand or Australia or anything. What's happened is I used Insight Publishing, and the book just started getting some momentum of its own, and it started selling in Australia and New Zealand, and also in the UK and the USA. And I see the other day, in some strange places, the other day there was 3 books sold in Italy. And a lot of it is useful because there's been other business coaches held my book up at their events and said, "You need to get a copy of this, go on to Amazon or Book Depository."
So all of those international sales are really starting through Amazon? Is that so people are seeing the Amazon page and that's where they're getting it?
Yeah, and Book Depository as well. And I have no clue. I'm not marketing it. I'm not paying for any marketing. I'm not sure how it's happening, but I presume it's just through social media. The second one that I've written, about 3/4 of it, I might have shown you this before. Hang on, I'll just show screen. It's got the same sort of theme going on. Get rid of some of this rubbish in the back. So you can see, oops, sorry. What have I done? Hang on.
You've gone to full screen.
Composure here.
Andrew Johnson, technical genius.
Well, I used to be, but maybe not today. So you can see this was the draft I did originally. I did this draft myself, and then I got it done by VA and the paints for the cover, and I highly recommend that. But then I knocked up this draft as well, Small Changes, Big Tax Savings. What I love about this one is the tagline here is "The art of plucking the most feathers with the least amount of hissing." So we'll see how that goes down with the Inland Revenue when it comes out. But it's about 70% written. The goal is to have it written by the end of the year, but I've gotten pretty busy. It'll dribble into the first few months of next year. I did want to say there's something else from the writing, and then I'll talk about the Vietnam stuff in India and Mexico. It's not just about this book. I I think the social media posting I do and I'm in a lot of closed groups, and I'm a lot of hot rod and motorcycle and car groups and stuff. And it was funny. I got a message out of the blue from a company in New Zealand that I didn't know. I've never met them in person, Retro America. And they said, man, we've been watching your social media and we love the photos you take and we love how you write. And would you be interested in coming doing a 17-day trip in the USA and doing social media for us? And that was all through just the way I was writing. And so I did that trip, and I ended up, long story short, but I ended up working with Caltex, Nitro Flashback, and NZ8 magazine, which is one of the bigger magazines in New Zealand, or probably the biggest in terms of motoring. And this article here, which is, it'd be great if I could find it, is 7 pages of that. Mostly, these are probably 90% of these photos of mine, but and I just wanted to show that because I don't talk about it much because it's a whole different stream other than the business development stuff I do. And you know, Brett, that I'm into this stuff, but the places becoming a good writer can take you are amazing. So the latest thing that's happened is we're doing a photo shoot for 2 quite rare cars down here, hot rod, resto mods, and a Plymouth and a Valiant. And they've asked me to write the articles for NZV8 magazine on those as well. So it's just growing its own little mushroom, really. And they also asked me if I'd like to go to Japan, to the Yokohama Moon Eyes hot rod show, and do a feature on that as well.
So it's really, it's kind of storytelling in all its different forms, isn't it? Because
I think
the book is very much, obviously there's what you want to teach them, the content, but you wrap that up in streetwise stories that really connects people. And I guess what you're doing with the motor writing is just extending that storytelling ability into another medium.
Yeah, I just wanted to show that because it's quite amazing where it can take you if you get really good at writing copy. And then a few people have said to me, how do you learn how to write, how to write like you write? And I know you're a good writer as well, Brett, but so I'm not, I just want to say that it's really about reading good copy and remembering how it's written, and then trying to emulate it into your own places and into your own writings. And one of the best forms for that is social media. Most of the social media posts out there are crap. They make me cringe. When someone puts a comment on something and they put nice, that's their comment, or a thumbs up. Why not write a one-liner that's cool and engaging, or it's got some humor in it. And you've seen me doing this on social media. Yeah. The other thing I'll say about social media in terms of building this circle, and this might help other authors, is that I've always had this adage that I should promote other people rather than myself, because in essence what happens there is I end up with a third-party endorsement, because I'll say, hey, here's Brett Odger's book. Man, you should read this. This is ultra cool. Make sure you read the piece in chapter 14 about the story about the blah, 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 blah. And I've given you the kudos for it, but I get it as well because I'm always posting that type of stuff. And you've seen me doing this internally with our action coach system. I do that a lot.
Yeah.
And I do it purposely now, but I just did it naturally for a start off. And that's what built my network around the world, which leads me to, I've done a lot of work in a lot of countries, speaking and training business coaches and speaking at quite a few conferences. But in the last few years, I've been in China and Vietnam quite a bit, and I've built good relationships there. And so there's a lady there who's a real powerhouse. Her name's Anna, and I think amazing would it sell? And there's 95 million people in Vietnam, probably in our target market of people who could afford a book and would be interested in a business book. The target market probably goes down to 20 million or 10 million. it's still a big number. And I talked to her about it, and we struck a deal to do that. And so I had to trust them with the cover and the content. So I'm going to show you the Vietnamese version, which looks really, really similar to mine. Not at all.
And we got to trust that in Vietnamese, that says the same thing as your book, right?
Well, actually, what is scary is the title was not the same title. It says something like the start of new beginnings or something like that. But I've had several Vietnamese friends read it, and they said it's very, very close in the copy. And the reason is that Anna got it translated externally, and it came back, and they weren't happy with it. And then she got her team to translate it. It was something like, I can't remember, two afternoons a week for a little while. They all sat around a table and they read some of it, and then they translate it, read it and translate it. So and they're all business coaches. So they put it into pretty much a parallel form. The cover stuff, some of the stuff you just got to suck it up. I would have loved to have had this cover, and they sent me 4 different versions, and this was one of them. And they said, "Which one do you like best?" And I sent them a picture of this back. And so they ran it. So there was no more correspondence about that. And I thought, well, this will be interesting. And when it came out, it was this one. I put together an agreement. I'd be probably willing to share that with someone who's serious about going into another country with their book. But it doesn't hold an ounce of water. It's more about the trust, because whatever deal I did with these guys, there was all sorts of ways I could get ripped off, but I haven't, and I'm pretty sure I haven't, and because I've made quite a bit of money out of it. And the deal was fair for all, and it allowed for Anna's team for the marketing, and they're serious marketers. Like, they'll put 500 to 1,000 people in a room for the launch, and I think the launch was about 50,000 US is what they spent on it. But then they gained she messaged me the other day and said that they'd gained about 200,000 US off the launch.
Wow.
New business owners wanting to work with you. Yeah. So it's pretty impressive.
So very good marketing strategy for them. So you sold 5,000 copies already in Vietnam.
Yeah. And that's one of the key things I want to say is you need to find someone who's damn good at marketing, because you get someone who's an active marketer and has proven to, probably the best way is to put people in a room. So I went over and I spoke. This was, it didn't cost me anything. They paid for flights, they paid for accommodation. And I spoke for 3 hours to a big audience in Ho Chi Minh and another big audience in Hanoi. And in both cases, it would be in the hundreds. And then I also got paid to engage with the team for, one team was for half a day and the other team was for a day. So I got paid a daily rate for that as well. So it was quite a profitable trip for me. The spin-off of that is that we're going to do another launch hopefully in Hanoi at the time of Formula One in Hanoi next year.
You're just building your entire business around motor cars and motorbikes. That sounds perfect. Which events do you want to be at? How can you build the business together?
Gasoline and tires. Gasoline and tires are what drive me, I think.
And then books support that habit.
So hopefully, it's just a means to an end. So that's kind of. And then the last thing I was going to say was we're trying to replicate it. Rinse and repeat in Mumbai, and then all connections, and we'll do the same thing. We'll do a launch with a big group of people and a signing and all that sort of stuff. And it's for Aussies and New Zealanders, I think we probably wouldn't go. Well, maybe we would go to a launch but particularly in Asia, they rock it. And I think in any country that's not English speaking, because they don't get enough books from good authors. So when they get a book from you or me or from any of the authors on your program, and it's translated into Spanish or actually in India we're leaving it in English, I think, but they jump at the opportunity to come along because they don't, there's not much of that happens in those countries. So we'll see what happens there. It's, all this stuff's up in the air until it falls on the ground. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I guess the thing that's striking me about that is that, what we said, 95 million in Vietnam, and even if that drops down to 20 million, eligible purchasers, well, Australia's only looking at 20 million total. So that's more than the population of Australia in one territory. And it's, it becomes truly a global business.
Well, see, the thing is too, if you go to America with 365 million, it's America is done to death with speakers and books and launches and all that sort of stuff. And I think if there's American authors watching this interview, they should be looking across to countries like Mexico or countries in Europe or countries in Asia. And I would be willing to be part of that deal. It would have to be something in it for me as well. But, I'd probably put people together with the right connections for that sort of stuff. Because I think it would be harder to really make a go of it and do, I know 5,000 books isn't a lot, but it's still a good start. And if they, I think it would be harder to do 5,000 books in Australia or America than it would be the way I did it.
Absolutely. Well, and then you've got India with, 1 billion people. That's a pretty significantly larger potential audience, and, a high proportion of highly educated people who are, interested in ideas and quality, quality thought leadership. I think that's a great insight, and I think the thing is the global distribution now is relatively easy. While you've obviously sold 5,000 books, and there's the ticket, like the actual the price of a book that you've made. I suspect, would it be right to say that the business opportunities for you that come out of that, whether they're speaking opportunities, workshop opportunities, potentially even people, doing one-to-one consulting with you, that while 5,000 books may not seem a lot, the opportunity could be quite huge beyond that. Is that the way you're looking at it?
Oh yeah, I think it's got nothing to do with the books in terms of the being a commercial enterprise. I think the commercial enterprise is really the back end, and I really believe nowadays two things. One is say yes to everything, and the other one is that don't plan too far ahead of what your book. I'm going to sell this many books, and it's going to do this, it's going to do this, because there'll be a door fly open to you perpendicular to the way you're thinking, and it'll take you in a different direction. And that's why I'm writing the 2 articles for NZV8 magazine. I'm not charging them, but I know damn well there'll be something pop out the other side of it that'll give me exposure for another magazine, or there'll be something happen. So whenever someone says, "Hey, would you like to do this?" and sure, I'll make it happen.
Yeah, and I think
I think last time we talked that. Sorry, I was just going to say, in terms of commercialization, last time we talked, I think I mentioned to you that it was something like $60,000 of business in the first 2-3 weeks.
Yeah,
and one of them was a company here in New Zealand that got my book from somewhere. I still don't know from where. And they read it and they just contact me out of the blue. And I'm getting this quite a bit now. Contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I've just read your book. I'd love to have a chat." And so there was one local and there was one up in the North Island at the time. Now there's been several. There's probably been 20 of those. And so I give out these. I give out freely. I use an office and an accountant's. And if I walk past someone who's getting into a vehicle with signage on it, I say, oh, is it your own business? You know, I engage them in conversation. I talk to them for a couple of minutes. I say, do you read any books? If I gave you a book on business, would you read it? The book that I wrote? And they often say, yeah, sure. And so I give them a book. I might not hear about that for, you know, the spin-off from that for 5 years. Who knows? But there'll be a consequence from it. Someone will phone me.
Yeah, and I think you know, I get the way I'm beginning to describe it to people, and I think you're probably a good example of this, is that it's actually a business building strategy. The book is just the byproduct of that. It's a nice byproduct, but it's sort of like you say, it almost doesn't matter, except that it does position you very nicely when you've actually got a hard product that you can do creative things with, like go to another country and do a deal for distribution in a different language. That's very cool.
Yeah, it gives a lot of credibility. I'm sick and tired of people trying to get on bestseller lists, you know, trying to get the book onto a bestseller list, because a lot of that's falsified. And, you know, they reach out to their social media network and they say, buy 10 of my books so that I can give them away to your client. So that I'm just sick of that crap, because it's not being sold on the merit of the book. It's just to pump the numbers. It's artificial. Something like that. I remember, you know, some of these guys like Wayne Dyer and you know, some of these famous authors, some of their books didn't take off for 2, 3, 4 years, and then all of a sudden they sold 30 million copies. This will never sell that. You know, this, I don't think it's not that type of book. But you know, the next one or the next one or the next one I write, who knows? But I think it's wrong to focus on that being on the bestseller. Just the fact you're an author is exceptional, because most people have on their bucket list they'd love to write a book, but they never get round to it. So the people, I commend anyone who's in your program, because, you know, they're actually doing it. They're making the investment in time and money to actually write their book, and, you know, don't take it too lightly. It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
I think that's such a great insight, because I completely agree with you. You know, there's an ego. There's a part of my ego that would love to be a New York Times bestseller, but there's a part of the process that I know they do in order to get there that doesn't feel real or congruent to me, and I just don't want to do it. You know, I think what you've demonstrated today is there are many more ways to generate income and generate fun and generate, you know, just like a great life, sharing really interesting ideas without being a New York Times bestseller. The books, you know, I know you've sent me a picture of you with a very long line of people in Vietnam wanting you to autograph their book. It literally looked like 150 people in that line, maybe more. But that's pretty cool.
My PA over there, I was training the team, and she said, we'd like some more books signed, but we want to give some more away or sell some more or something. I can't remember. And I said, well, how many is there? And she said, there's 100. And I said, okay, each break that I have, I'll sign a heap of them, and we'll get them done. And I signed and signed and signed all day, every break, lunchtime, you know, all the breaks. When I got done, I said, that felt like a lot more than 100. She said, oh, yeah, it was 200. I didn't tell you, but I knew that you wouldn't sign 200, but so I didn't tell you. So that's a
good problem to have.
Before I got writer's wrist from signing. Yeah, the day before I'd signed probably 300 or 400. You know, pretty funny.
That's fantastic. Well, mate, thank you so much for sharing your adventure with us, because I just really wanted people to see the level of creative thinking that you're going to, and to the opportunities open up. I think the way you've described that, about being that the opportunities could be at right angles to where you think it is right now, but it's just important, keep going, get that done, and say yes to the opportunities that come up, because they could lead somewhere really fun, like the Formula One in Japan. That could be fun.
And Formula One in Hanoi, and in Vietnam, and the Hot Rod show in Japan. It was such a shame, because I couldn't make it. I couldn't fit it into my calendar, and I can't fit it again this year. So maybe next year I'll get to the hot rod show.
Next book. Next book.
But it's really nice to incorporate a hobby. Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Mate, thank you so much for spending some time this afternoon and sharing your thoughts and ideas. You could quite quickly become the conduit for all of these authors into Asia and lead the way and show the way. So thank you so much for that.
My absolute pleasure, and thank you for all that you've done for me, Brett. It's awesome.
Been a pleasure.